It normally takes, it says an error occurred. Wait.
We're live.
All right. We are live on YouTube, guys. I think we are not live on Periscope. We are going to try again here. All right. Now we're live.
We have just received word that hashtag Daily Rojo, previously in negotiations with The Athletic to become the biggest and most widely read pre-paywall brand in sports, has instead been acquired by hashtag Daily L Nerd for Net. Daily L Nerd for Net has been accused by some in the past of just being like totally washed up and literally about to get cut. That was true. And just such a god-awful pick in the third round. Isn't that still true? Calvin Ridley's going to double him up in points. The point remains. Hashtag Daily L Nerd for Net is now the biggest brand in sports. May God have mercy on our souls.
Not going to lie, Pat, I was hoping that The Athletic would be the one to acquire Daily Rojo, because I would then assume that I would kind of get a sub as part of that, larger package deal. But apparently I'm still going to have to be pre-paywall Pete.
Well, that was one of the things holding up negotiations, actually. And I'm really kicking myself for not, striking while the iron was hot there.
Has what has been kind of the editorial shift for you now that Daily L has kind of taken over? Are you on the Lenny bit now?
They have me in the mailroom at the moment, but I'm working my way up again.
Yeah, I mean, it's no one gets to be just a general columnist right out of the gate. You gotta, cut your teeth, pay your dues. Have you set up your Leonard Fournette Google alerts like you did for Rojo?
Yeah, I set them up for just to tilt.
Do you still listen to Pewter Report?
Yeah, I don't know what kind of punishment do you think I need to be giving myself that I'm listening to Pewter Report the week when Rojo gets beaten out by Fournette? You think I'm listening to Pewter Report that week?
No, you're off. You're off. You had to take a little break from the. Did you turn off your Google alerts for Rojo?
The thing is, I was grinding so hard on Rojo, I never had them set up. I didn't do this with this is all old school, baby.
Yeah. Josh says we're on to Myles Gaskin. I mean, can we just Thursday night, tomorrow night? I am the showdown thought leader, the showdown king, and now we have my two favorite players in the world squaring off in an island game on Thursday night. Pat, are we even going to get you to make some showdown lineups? Have you been inspired by my success?
I think so. I want to put Visca in the captain. I don't know. What else do I do after that, Pete? I know Visca's going to be my captain. I'll figure.
I just did a show with Brian, and we built a lineup at the end, and we started with Visca in the captain, and it's very affordable. There's a lot you can do. And yeah, I was, by the way, if for some reason you guys haven't checked out Stat Chasing yet, please do. So it's on our YouTube. We're doing it exclusive on Tuesdays, and then Pat dropped it in the pod feed, and the feedback has been great. Pat is crushing it. I'm a little miffed that this non-Peter segment of ship chasing is such a smashing success, but I'll allow it because it is that good. I was listening to it, the audio version today. So check that out. I was just going to say, one thing you highlighted was Laviska having more carries than targets, which, as you mentioned, was part of the thesis that he would get carries, but not the overriding part of the thesis.
Yeah. And to a certain extent, we don't want him to be getting more carries than targets. We'd like to see him, because he's not running a full slate of routes. We'd like to see him get up to, 80, 90% of routes, running a route on 80, 90% of dropbacks is what I mean. I think he was down at 68. And so, yeah, would like to see him more involved as a wide receiver first. But, as a running back, we're seeing him get carries kind of in non-valuable parts of the field, but I don't think that that's anything more than really, chance. Like, we could see him at the goal line if he keeps getting involved this much. So it's nice to see. Now I'm looking for him to get more involved as a receiver. And Shark is maybe not going to play. He's questionable. So that would certainly give us a pretty good look at what his role would be in an expanded sense.
Another bit of housekeeping, because I was going to say, there were some highlight-worthy plays from Laviska this past week. I do want to get in the routine of updating the highlight reel. However, I thought maybe let the Thursday game happen. Then we can get really a fully revamped reel. And tentatively, I don't want to put it in complete ink, but I believe Pat and our pal Ben Gretch and I are going to hop on for a Friday stream. A little 9:15 Eastern, same time, pre-FFPC waiver lock stream. We'll have some beers. We'll have some Visca highlight reels, and we'll talk through any last-minute interesting bids as well as the Sunday slate. So you guys can tune in to that on Friday. Pat, the people can probably tell we're a little more casual about waivers today. We actually did a little prep work for once, and I don't feel as stressed.
Yeah, we have waivers in for all the leagues. I did go through and tweak them before we got on here, so we might need to talk through a couple of things I did, which you might not be on board with. I had to add a little bit of stress just for the content,
So, honestly, though, we're trying to strike the balance of, showing you what we're doing in our leagues, actual decisions we're making, but we also don't want it to be what it was last week. I'm glad people enjoyed us, tilting and off our faces. But if you guys do have some specific situations you guys want to talk about, like if we want to talk about, Chase Claypool versus KJ Hamler, like we can have those conversations and we can frame it within, bid prices or percentage. So we do want this to be informative across different leagues, but we will still check in on some specific bid decisions. And like Pat said, we did a first pass. I know KJ Hamler has been a guy that we've been going back and forth on a little bit. I think Pat and I were a little lower on him just as far as what we thought he could bring to our lineups. But guys like Ben and Sean are much higher on him. Is Hamler someone you've done a bit of a 180 on since we talked a few hours ago?
Yeah, a little bit. I've jumped him up just behind like where we have Schultz in the main event. So I'm having him above like some of the lower. We basically have three tiers of guys we're looking to spend some serious money on, guys that we are kind of more than just $1 or $2 guys, and then $1 and $2 guys. And so I put him up kind of with the serious money crew, not like the Mike Davis type of money, but
yeah. So I already see some good questions coming in the chat, so we can use those as a springboard. Also, if I miss a question, just feel free to circle back and I'll try to get it if I miss it. This to me is one of the more interesting things this week. We have the kind of what I think popped first, which was like, oh, Christian McCaffrey and Saquon are done. Like, do we have league winners on the waivers? I think a lot of us have kind of cooled on what those situations might present as far as fantasy. However, I think these tight ends, specifically Dalton Schultz, are extremely interesting in FFPC with the 1.5 premium. Do you think, Pat, that, and again, I guess I haven't seen a lot of chatter, so I don't even know what consensus is, but in general, it feels like people are sleeping on these tight ends a little more than they should.
Yeah, although I think part of that might be that most, the general talk about this stuff isn't a tight end premium discussion. And so I am really curious to see how expensive a guy like Sample ends up being here, because I do agree. I mean, Sample is not really like popping when these general waiver wire discussions are coming up. And that could lead to him being a bit of a value here. But I bet in some leagues he's quite expensive, because sometimes these tight ends do get snapped up at pretty high prices. So my guess is that there's probably like a fairly high range. The distribution is pretty wide or whatever. But yeah, if you can sneak through Sample for a lot less than Schultz, then I prefer that. But I do prefer Schultz straight up. The
one thing Pat and I were talking about earlier, and my take on Dalton Schultz is, he's might be just even a slightly better version of what Hayden Hurst is in Atlanta. So like I would frame the conversation on what would you bid for Hayden Hurst on tight end premium waivers, because in a lot of ways, I don't think of them as super exciting talents from a profile, athletic profile standpoint, but they are, the 3B/4, whatever, on really good offenses behind 3 really good wide receivers. And to me, that's the comp for Schultz. And he's already shown what the ceiling can look like in that offense. So I think you should be very aggressive with Schultz. I don't mind aggressive bids on Schultz, especially for teams who have Kittle and are hurting, or, maybe have whiffed on tight end. So yeah, I think Schultz is great. I think Sample is a guy that you should definitely, at the very least, be putting in backstop price enforcement bids on, in the same logic that we've talked with Crack Rock before. Is you also just don't want another breakout tight end on someone else's team. You'd rather have Drew Sample on your bench than going off for one of your opponents who's weak at tight end. Yeah.
And price enforcing, I think, is always a good idea for that reason. You just don't want people to be able to scoop up values that are going to make their team stronger. And you'll see some teams not always put in bids. And so being active is also like, there's a smaller pool of people who are going to be active as the season goes on, and making sure that they're not getting all those guys is important.
Oh yeah. Crack Rock's, this is his wet dream this week with Sample, Schultz. I'm sure he's mixing in a little Mo Alley Cox there, cranking it with the Cox. How did we not get Crack Rock on for that? Two hats, one Mike said, will you guys do your waivers for me? Don't you literally have Davis do your waivers for you?
Yeah, isn't that a thing? Oh, is he firing Davis?
Yeah, how much do you pay, Leone? How much do you pay? This is actually a good one. Pat and I were discussing this earlier as well, and we actually don't have a definitive answer on it yet. But Pat, as one of the preeminent Jalen Reagor thought leaders, and by the way, Pat has had such a rough week between Ronald Jones, Cortland Sutton, and now Reagor. If someone takes Zach Moss, I swear to God. But Pat, what are we doing with Reagor right now?
Yeah. The thing that's been so rough is that it got all spread out too. So Sutton I didn't even know about till Monday, and then Reagor was today. I'm like really worried about what I'm going to find. I mean, we could see Zach Moss tomorrow. It's been tough. Anyway, Reagor, the latest report I saw is that it might only be 2 weeks. And so I think what's going on is that he is sort of on the borderline of whether or not he should get surgery. I think, ironically, this is kind of the same thing that happened with his shoulder, where he probably, if he was like a normal person, would have gone ahead and gotten surgery when that injury happened. But obviously that would have ended his season. So he's playing through it, did rehab, now he's playing through it. That option appears to exist here too, where he can do about 2 weeks of rehab and then come back. Or he can get surgery and be out like 6 to 8 weeks. So we're still waiting to see. This is one of the things that I tweaked. We had like one of the bids, we were like, we'll drop Jalen Reagor specifically if we get this player. I've deleted that bid and kind of added that player in with other bids. So, because I don't think if he's only going to miss 2 weeks, he's a really bad drop right now, and we'll know more in the next couple of days. So he could be a guy that we end up throwing back on Friday for like a look ahead quarterback, look ahead defense, whatever. So I just think with a player with that high of a ceiling, we want to be sure about what the prognosis is before we cut bait. But if it is 6 to 8 weeks, I mean, but they have a week 9 bye, so you're looking at maybe getting him back in week 10. This regular season runs through week 11. I think you're kind of lying to yourself if you think you're going to be able to keep that roster spot, him on that roster spot through all of the bye weeks. Like, you're going to end up cutting him 3-4 weeks from now, and so you might as well do it now.
Well, and just think about how normally, I mean, this feels like a normal 4-team bye week from a regular year. Just the lack of options available because of all the injuries. Like, the amount of holes we're having to plug right now feels like a big bye week, and yet we haven't even hit the bye. So to your point, like, you're just not going to be able to have any roster cloggers through these bye weeks this year. There's just too much chaos, too many injuries.
Yeah, and to Dr. Evil's point here, we've got he pointed out that they hope to have him back after week 9, which, yeah, I mean, if he gets surgery, he's got to then get back to the point where it affects your ability to grip stuff. So he's got to work back to where he can grip a football. It's a huge problem if you're a wide receiver and can't grip. So, yeah, it wouldn't be any guarantees that he'd even be back in week 10.
I do want to talk about this one, and apologies for us being a little vague here because this is one Pat had changed. I would like to still get in another contingent drop to try to get that quarterback that we were eyeing.
I put him in with
I see it, but I mean one where we are able to get Mike Davis, Dalton Schultz, and this quarterback. That was the one you deleted. I mean, I have no problem dropping Frank Gore for this quarterback.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay. Do you want me to put it in?
I'll do it.
All right. Look at that. He doesn't trust me. He says he'll do it. All right. Let me check in here. How do the top backs this week compare to the top handcuffs like Edmonds? I assume Edmonds became available on your waiver wire. I mean, the thing about Chase Edmonds is he has more of a profile that could be a league-winning type profile just based on his talent. He's catching a little passes. Benjamin's been inactive, so it doesn't seem like they have a ton of faith in him right now. So Edmonds has that like top 7, top 8 running back rest of season if Kenyon Drake went down potential, whereas these guys like Mike Davis, whatever's going on in New York, which is just a situation I'm not really interested in. I just don't think those guys have Mike Davis has the profile to really run away with a great job. So the other thing is the Panthers suck, right? And they're going to be in a ton of negative game scripts. The one nice thing is Mike Davis had 8 catches last week, a bunch of it in garbage time. But again, like the rushing work and like the touchdown equity and stuff, I don't know. He's not a guy I'm getting that excited about. I mean, Pat and I are forced to put in some aggressive bids, specifically in our main event 2 team where we have Christian McCaffrey. But kind of Pat and I's thought has been more like solid price enforcement bids and not betting the farm on Mike Davis. So that's kind of where I'm at on him. Let me see. Yes, James, you discovered which quarterback we are going after. Pat, do you have a take on this one? This is a deep cut, but one I was actually been looking at in dynasty leagues. Devonta Booker versus Jalen Reagor.
I don't have a strong take there. I know you might have a strong take about Jalen Reagor.
Jesus Christ.
I'm guessing your team Booker.
What were we doing? Oh yeah, we were just chatting on Monday night, and I realized the sweat I had. I'm like looking at the lineups, and I'm like, holy cow. I thought I had a chance to, and I did. But like at the time, I just thought I needed Drew Brees and Alvin Kamara to do well. We got that field goal from Daniel Carlson. What I didn't realize is that there were the 11 teams that had the exact same team as me, but they had Jalen Reagor instead of Zay Jones, who had literally 0.1 more points than Zay Jones. I solo shipped that. If that Jalen Reagor fumble is a fumble, and yes, this is the last time I will tell this story. If that is a fumble, or he has 1 less yard or 1 less catch, I solo shipped $25,000. Not one person in a 60,000 person contest had my lineup. I'm over it. I am over it, right, Pat? Sounds like I'm over it.
Yeah, you sound pretty over it, Pete.
Let's see. This is actually a good one we've been talking about a little bit too. Is the mentor still worth holding, or did Darwin jump him? I feel confident in saying that I think Darwin is a good ad of sneaking him through for $1 or $2. I'm not as confident on the former. What do you think about Darrell as a hold?
Yeah, Darrell, I'm still holding Darrell. He was banged up in that, and I think that's what contributed to Darwin getting usage. It could be that usage puts him over Darrell going forward, but he had an ankle issue. He left the game. So I'm talking about Darrell Williams. So if he's, back healthy, I think it's quite plausible that he just is the backup again, and Darwin goes back to being not used. So I would like to see another week. I agree with Pete. I think Darwin's definitely worth like sneaky $1-2 bids. I don't think Darwin's worth spending really anything more than that. Even something like, in that $20 to $50 range, I think is probably a little bit of an overpay unless you just have a super dry waiver wire where, or like a even deeper format than this where no one really becomes available, then sure. But yeah, right now I'm just kind of $1, $2 guy.
And to me, my worry about Darrell right now isn't actually the injury. It's the actual contingent value if Clyde Edwards-Helaire went down. I worry about them bringing in another body.
Who could that body be?
Just literally anyone off a practice squad or whatever. And it just seems to me that if they were higher on, like, Darrell Williams just feels like the epitome of just a guy in this offense. Sure. And they're not manufacturing touches with him. Like, part of my thesis was, hey, maybe Clyde Edwards-Helaire isn't ready to play, and Darrell Williams is going to be like the 1B in this offense right out of the gate. And that was obliterated in the first game and continues to hold true. Like, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, as you talked about on Stat Chasing, is just a locked in, loaded bell cow back. So I'm just worried that Darrell Williams would even get 15 to 20 touches in this offense if Clyde Edwards-Helaire went down.
Yeah, that's a legit concern, but I think it's on the table, and the offense is so potent that, that alone would be very valuable. So, we took him, I think at the very end, we were taking him in like the 12th round, and now he's like more of a 17th, 18th round type guy, but I think he is worth rostering still.
There are a couple other questions back here that I wanted to hit. Let's talk about some of the wide receivers. We mentioned Hamler before. T. Higgins, Claypool are also very interesting names. All the rookies here. How are you thinking about this? In the perspective of even despite losing Sutton, we have some pretty deep rosters where we have Reagor, Ayuk, and Shenault, although now we lose Reagor. So maybe we aren't as deep as we initially were. How do you think about these guys potentially being starters for us at some point this season?
Yeah, I think one of the things that Pete and I are trying to get better at as we've played in the FFPC for a few years now is like, because we go so wide receiver heavy, typically, then you can sort of feel like you're fine at wide receiver, but there's still a lot of guys who have second-year breakouts or rookies and kind of come out of nowhere, and they can make huge differences for your team. And I think especially the rookies can make big differences down the stretch and really carry you through this playoff part of the tournament that, it's a very top-heavy payout structure here. So you need to put up a ton of points to close out your season. And rookie wide receivers can sometimes be a big part of that. So I'm trying to be a little bit more attuned to that than we have been in the past. In both of our main events, Claypool is not available. And I don't believe Higgins is available either. So that kind of limits our ability to get on. Yeah, Higgins isn't available in either as well. So, only Hamler is available to us. And like I was saying before, I was a little bit ho-hum about Hamler just given the quarterback situation there now. But after talking with Ben and Sean a bit, I'm a little bit more excited. And I really liked Hamler as a prospect. I mean, really the only big knock on him is his size. And other than that, he checks like basically every other box. So getting on the field now with a deep part of the field role that's pretty open. That's something that Sutton really handled in addition to being, used on intermediate routes as well. But Sutton was kind of the alpha and deep threat. So that deep threat role is now open.
We can definitely check in on some of these other questions here as we go. I just want to go through some of our other bid groups. So in Ship Chasing 2, this is our I do want to actually just talk about this team, and I will obscure our bids here because we don't want to completely give it away. But this team is currently 50th overall in the main event. We did just lose Sutton and C-Mac and Reagor, which kills because this team hit on so many things you want to hit on. The Dak double stack with Gallup and Lamb, DK Metcalf, Joshua Kelly, who looks like one of the best late round 0 RB targets of this draft, and Mark Andrews as a tight end breakout. So it really, really stings to have these injuries that were going to just supercharge this team. Pat, how are you feeling about it despite the injuries here as I show our bench?
The bench is what's keeping my head up because, we do have N'Keal Harry, who we can slot in. I think we could get something out of Brandon Ayuk coming up here. I think we've got to do a little better at our backup tight end, but we're working on that. So, I think overall we're in pretty good shape. Although when you lose Christian McCaffrey, that's every team that lost Christian McCaffrey is hurting this week. He's obviously a huge part of your formula.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about, though, when you are looking at this waiver wire. I mean, it is great for tight ends. We've made some aggressive bids. We'll see when we end up finishing up tonight, but hopefully those bids will process a little bit faster and we can check in on them and talk about some of the exact pricing. Let's pull up our main event 2 team, which, Pat, I know you referenced it on Stat Chasing, but it had a monster game on Monday night from Alvin Kamara. We end up winning by what? 3 or 4 points, was it? A very close game?
Yeah, it was a very close game. This is the one this is actually Ship Chasing 1. I think you like like the other one better, so you've decided to name it 1. This is the one we drafted first.
So the thing that's different about this one is we actually have a little bit more running back depth on this. So we have Alvin. You see, we've plugged in McKinnon for this week. We do have Rojo, but we also have Zach Moss. And we have, I guess most people would look at this and not say we have running back depth, but I see like Darrington Evans, who I still think is going to be a factor this year once he's back and healthy, and a little bit more wiggle room. We're actually thinner on wide receiver in this one, now losing both Reagor and Sutton. And I mean, we're actually really thin by our standards at wide receiver here.
We're extremely thin at wide receiver, I think, by anyone's standards, and especially by ours. So, yeah, I mean, this team overall is just kind of thinning out as we lose Sutton and Reagor. But yeah, I mean, McKinnon unlocks this week. Who knows what his role is going to be, but should be bigger than it was last week at a minimum.
Well, it's actually, McKinnon's been an interesting one. I know some people, I think myself included, are worried about both just how good this offense is going to be with half of their team injured and Shanahan kind of splitting things with Jeff Wilson, maybe Jermichael Hasty gets some looks. But I will say our friend John Paulson, at least in his initial projection run, is extremely high on Jerick McKinnon. Like, I believe, Pat, we were looking at, he has him like top 30 option overall this week.
Yeah, he's got him as like a legit running back 2 play.
Let's talk about this question, because I was talking about this with Pat earlier, and I get the enthusiasm for Wilson in general, and I do think he can be a spot start for you this week. My worry about Wilson is that last year when he succeeded, this offense was a juggernaut. They were having a ton of success on the ground. They were having a ton of goal line opportunities, and Wilson was getting those very high-value goal line touches. Well, this team is decimated. I don't know how successful it's going to be, and I don't know how many goal line opportunities they're going to have. And then because he doesn't catch passes, you are really leaving yourself exposed to like some very low downside games, to the point I would almost rather play some of these little PPR backs, a Jalen Reagor, if you will, over Wilson in a vacuum. I don't know. How are you thinking about Wilson?
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think he probably is going to be the goal line guy, and maybe he'll get a lot of that work in between the 20s. That's what I think is really up for grabs. But I don't think he's going to get a ton of passes, and I do think McKinnon will be involved there. And the 49ers are just desperate for people to catch the ball right now. So, I mean, even Brandon Ayuk was getting targeted like behind the line of scrimmage. So I think you could see McKinnon involved there. There should be plenty of checkdowns available to him in this offense. So I think McKinnon's probably, for a player that, is sliding into a role that's pretty uncertain. We haven't seen him. We literally haven't seen him before week 1 in like 2 years. So it's tough to be all that confident, but still, I think we can be somewhat confident that he'll get at least enough checkdowns to be viable as a start.
Jay was asking, yes, we are looking at Herbert in a spot or two. That's the one that we're haggling on. We're gonna take a peek at Herbert. I think he's definitely interesting. I'm gonna be really curious to see how much he goes for, just because so many teams in these leagues do have two quarterbacks. I was looking through one of our leagues, and it's every team either has two quarterbacks or Lamar Jackson. So it'll be interesting to see if teams go for 3 QBs, if they drop a second one to try to add him. But he's very interesting. He seems like he has a high upside with how he plays. Good offense, good weapons. Yeah, I think it could be interesting. Let's see here. Valid
question about Boykin here.
Oh yeah, sorry. Where's the Boykin question?
I'm Bunderwood there.
Sorry. Oh, I got you. Yeah.
So we have Boykin in one of our leagues, and I think he's worth like a $1-2 type of ad. Maybe even like 10, 11, that range. But yeah, I think the target distribution in Baltimore has been a little bit more spread out than I expected entering the season. And that's not great considering how hard we went on Mark Andrews. That's going to create more volatile weeks for Mark Andrews. But you have Baltimore through 2 weeks is just beating the shit out of teams, and it's actually hurting the passing offense for fantasy purposes. I think if they can, and hopefully it'll happen this week against the Chiefs, be forced to pass a bit more, then we could see huge weeks out of, obviously Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews, but I think you could instead see like a really nice startable week out of a guy like Boykin if, Brown or Andrews doesn't hit their ceiling.
Mike, we touched on this before. Basically where we're at on this is, if you're in shallower leagues, definitely drop Reagor. Pat and I think are going to wait a week to see kind of a full injury report and get a better timeline, just because we don't want to happen to drop him if he will be back in 3 to 4 weeks. If he is on the 6 to 8 week timeline, we were saying we are going to drop him. So yeah, you definitely, Eric, unload the clip for Rodrigo Blankenship. We have some bids in for him. We have some bids in for Jason Myers. We have met our kicker quota talk on this show. Cards Fanatic has a question that I think ties in on some stuff we've been thinking about. Time to dump Bryce Love. I think Bryce Love kind of falls into that category of like an Eno Benjamin, a guy that we're still holding, even though he's been inactive these past couple of weeks. And now there's also some other interesting guys that are the guy behind the guy, but haven't been inactive, guys like Jordan Wilkins and Darwin Thompson. So Pat, how are you thinking about these players? When we go to put in a big bid for Mike Davis, I feel sick to my stomach because these are guys I would rather be a week ahead of for $1. How should people be thinking about these guys behind the guys?
Love is a guy that I'm moving off of. I'm ready to throw back. I am throwing him back, even in a dynasty league, super shallow dynasty league. It's this size basically. So you're kind of playing it almost like a high stakes redraft league. I'm throwing Love back there because we're churning through to get some of these the many running back waiver ads this week. I view Love as a bit different than Eno because with Eno, we have this high-powered offense that we want pieces of. We've got a situation where they're using both Drake and Edmonds. So if Drake were to get hurt, maybe you see Eno take over that Edmonds role, which is actually, providing it's pretty weak standalone value, but you could see it if you needed a spot start or something. So, and Eno's a really interesting prospect. And I would be really intrigued by him in that situation. Love is an interesting prospect too, but he's coming off this injury concern. He obviously hasn't impressed the coaches all that thoroughly because he's not active on game days. And I think it's like, what would you need? I guess Gibson specifically would have to get hurt because if McKissick goes down, it's not going to help him. If Peyton Barber goes down, it may not help Love all that much. So it's not that I'm totally out on Love, but when I look at the waiver wire, I see guys I'd rather have. Like I think you'd rather churn him out for Wilkins for $1 or even Darwin Thompson for $1 or whatever. So, if you can get one of those other, I think there's just other guys behind a guy that are a little bit more intriguing now, given that there were so many injuries.
Yeah, and you mentioned Wilkins. Eric brings him up here. He's a guy that's interesting to me, and one of those guys I'd like to get ahead of with a dollar waiver ad, because we saw week one, Nyheim Hines was extremely involved in a more even game as far as the game script. And then they have an obvious positive game script, and Jonathan Taylor just hogs every touch. Nyheim Hines was basically not involved at all. To me, that says they have this incredible offensive line, and if they have some good game scripts, which they should, that means that guy behind the guy is going to see, 15 to 18 touches in a lot of weeks. And that's Jordan Wilkins. So he's a guy that I think is kind of rocketing up my, mustache running backs. And he's a guy that Pat and I are going to try to sneak through in a few spots this week if you have room for him. So yeah, I like Wilkins.
I'm actually going to bump him up just like by $2 or $3 in our bid groups and see.
Yeah, my take was that convincing?
It was a compelling take. And no, the thing is, you were talking, what I was thinking about as well is that what Jordan Wilkins has that some other guys don't have is like a very specific profile, and then not the other profile. As you were making this point, but it's like Nyheim Hines doesn't do what Jordan Wilkins does at all, and the two of them kind of make a complete whole together. Where when I look at Bryce Love, I'm like, what does he do that Antonio Gibson doesn't do? You know what I mean? Right. He's probably more just now playing behind Antonio Gibson if Peyton Barber gets hurt or whatever. So Jordan Wilkins, it's easy to see how he gets a bunch of playing time if one thing happens. And I think that makes him a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I think Raquel Armstead's an easy drop. Any of these guys we've mentioned who are playing right now have more contingent value. And when you have Laviska Shenault as your backup running back, Raquel does not have too much value there. So, but yeah, all jokes aside, I think you move on from Armstead. I'm going to let Pat answer this one while I go grab another beer, because I can't get excited about this guy. But Davis is trying to get me on Michael Pittman. Pat, what do you think?
Yeah, Michael Pittman's not a guy that I was on really at all in Dynasty. He was one of the guys that I was fading the most in Dynasty because I didn't like his profile. And I thought Paris Campbell looked pretty interesting as a second-year breakout guy. Obviously, Campbell was looking great, and then he goes down. So that was really rough. But when you look at the way T.Y. Hilton is being used, he's being used much deeper down the field than even Campbell. And now you've got Pittman coming in. He's being used shallower than Campbell, but I think could be helping to fill in some of that role. I think there's now really a fair amount of volume available to Pittman if he can seize the opportunity. And there's only so much that I want to put on my preseason evaluation of a guy. They are now going to give him the chance to get a lot of volume, and he's still pretty cheap. I don't think people are going to be like, I don't know, maybe he's owned in both of our main events. So, he is a guy that some people were very excited about. And so maybe if you do see him on waivers, you need to be pretty aggressive to get him. I'm not willing to really be all that aggressive to get him. But if I can get him on my team, if I can get him on my teams cheaply, then by all means.
I want to start a thing. You know how on DFS, like there's guys that on Twitter at Lock will just write do a tweet that just is like 10 O's that says Lock. That's what I want to do right now at 10 p.m. in the chat. Everybody type Lock. There it is. Waiver bids have locked, except maybe in the KFFC when they lock whatever they feel like it. We can now talk a little bit more openly about some of our bids here. In this ship chasing 2 league where we lost Christian McCaffrey, we went, I think we did a very chill $420 for Mike Davis.
Little chill 420.
Little chill 420 there. We were over in this, the first main event draft, the one we did as a slow draft back in July. We did put in a bid. We were getting back Justin Herbert. Pat didn't want to drop Jalen Reagor, but we put in a bid for Herbert dropping Frank Gore. Because we had apparently cornered the market on Jets running backs. So we'll see how that works out. Pat, were there any other bid situations that might be interesting to talk through now that they've cleared?
Well, we went for I think we went pretty heavy on Schultz in some leagues. We went really heavy on Schultz in the quad. We're up above 200 there.
KFFC is midnight. So there we go. We won't talk about that one.
Yeah, we keep doing that. Pittman is available there.
Yeah.
There's some wide receivers available there that aren't available elsewhere. KFFSC. I wish it was just 10. It's just different enough to keep screwing us up.
I know they're using the exact same software, but Farrell's over there like, oh gosh darn, why don't we just make it midnight? I mean, my guys, they need a couple more hours. These FFPC guys, I mean, they might need it at 10, but my people, we need it at noon.
Kentucky's in Eastern time zone, so there's not even like a reason for it. I get it.
Yeah, so you don't have to tell me your bid since I'm in your league. Yeah, we know, Ray. We know. Dan Masterson went 485 for Davis. Feels like I get home in $40%. Yeah, so it seems like all the sharps. We had Chris G went 459, so it looks like we're good company in that 400 range. Yeah, Ray, it is noon in Hong Kong. I assume you're just getting back from a nice little brunch, just living the good life. What bids did we end up settling on Schultz? We were kind of in like somewhere between like 250 to 120, depending on our team needs.
Yeah, that's right. We were down. We got up as high, I think, as 265. No, 222 was the highest we were at with the quad, because that team has Kittle and Reed. So we're kind of like, we could really use some more tight end depth.
Oh, it's only 10 a.m. in Hong Kong. Grinding waivers since 7. I'm telling you, man, today, like Pat, the fact that Pat and I now have to set up a separate call on Wednesdays to do waivers, we need our co-managers to step up. We need them to step up. Hassan was here last week saying he sets these bids. He sets $1 bids. Hassan, I need you or Blair to go in there. We won't be mad. Set them how you think. We can always tweak them, and we go from there. But I'm going to lose my goddamn mind if I have to set waivers.
Hassan sets literally every single person at $1. And you're just going, is this even the order? These are just names. These are names. Shout out to Sean Siegel, though, because he set bids, then he tweaked bids. It was like, it's pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, well, Sean is just a pro's pro. Chris says, did Davis do ship taking tonight? Davis did take the lead on ship taking. I got to give him credit. I think Pat ended up throttling back his Darwin Thompson.
He wanted to spend $33 on Darwin Thompson. I took one of the threes off. I wasn't having it.
So this is actually something I will. Okay, so Siler asked, like, Pat and I have not talked about this idea. I am legitimately open to waiver wire interns. Also, another thing for an intern, and we will make it worth your while somehow. I promise that's not an empty promise. I don't know what it is, but we'll make it worth. If someone on Stat Chasing had a really good suggestion of adding the team by team timestamps, you can either post it as a comment. And again, don't do it for this week. It's already passed. But if someone wants that job, and we could maybe give you an early look at the episode or something like that. Apparently people find those timestamps happy. So we are in the process of building out our intern network. I would love nothing more than to have one of you sharps set waiver bids for me, but we'll cross that bridge when it gets there. I'm not on Crack Rock's level right now.
Yeah, I've actually been studying and working on applications to get into the financial sector, which is not what I do as my day job, but I'm just realizing that if I can get some of those interns, then we can get them to set our waivers. So it's sort of a strategic career shift for me.
I know. Well, that's what's so brilliant about Crack Rock thing. It's not like he posted a Craigslist ad for waiver wire interns. No, he went from within, and
he's stealing company resources.
Well, here's the thing that I actually wonder. So, Henry, you're a grinder. You're one of these guys in all these leagues. To me, it's like, I guess is it the same for everyone? We just all like doing the drafts. I mean, that's for me. I would do 1 million drafts. What?
He's in 114 leagues.
No way. Well, I think Dan Masterson, you said, was in like that many last year. You guys are sick. I honestly don't know how it's just absurd. We need to, can we normalize best ball across? We have a main event, FFPC main event.
Best ball. I don't know.
Oh my God.
The FFPC best ball leagues are managed. You still have to do waivers. It's like I don't even know. It's just, there's no point to it. I guess you don't have to set the lineup. That's kind of nice.
Here, actually, I'm going to meet FFPC halfway. Let's get rid of kickers and defense. That would make waivers so much easier. Pat? You like kickers and defense?
I feel like if you're going to have to grind all these waivers, you might as well have kicker and defense, because I do think it gives you an edge just to like, do I like grinding kickers and defense? No, but if I'm going to be in there grinding, then I might as well grind those kickers and defense.
Your point was just, if I'm going to have to grind, why not add more grinding? That point does not resonate with
Henry agrees with me. He likes kickers and defenses, and this guy has to grind 114 of them.
You guys are sick.
I'm glad you're with me here, Henry.
Someone also needs to build, like for you guys, like, I don't even know. So if you had 114 leagues, how sick would it be if someone built a tool where you were able to see who is available across all those leagues and set a default bid for all of them? So like, say you knew you were trying to sneak Chase Claypool on, and you set your default bid at $2 for him in any league that's available. And so you set that on a master sheet, and then you go into each league and you can kind of tweak accordingly by team needs or whatever. If you set like, these are the guys I'm dropping and these are my master thing, and then it does it all for you, and then you can manually tweak. I don't know. I'm just spitballing. I'm trying to make my life easier. See, Jay's going to invest.
That sounds pretty great.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah. Parabear says I would just cry if I had 114 leagues. Let's see if any of these waivers have processed yet. Jordan Wilkins, Darwin Thompson, KJ Hamler. All right. All right. This is Pat. This is main event 2 where we lost. So we didn't get
Mike Davis at 421.
Did not get Mike Davis. That said, Silver Linings Playbook, Hamler. I'm stoked to get Hamler. How much was our bid for Hamler in this one?
101.
101. That's not bad. I like that.
Yeah.
Davis went 537. See, Ray, that would cut our waiver times by at least 5 hours. Yeah, Ray's suggestion of copy bid groups for all leagues. Exactly. We need something like that. All right, let's see what we had in Maine. I really want to get Herbert. We got Herbert. Nice. I wanted Herbert. And we got Hamler here.
We have Hamler here? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Running backs are expensive.
Yeah.
We learned tonight.
How much was Hamler here, Pat?
101 as well.
101. Who did we have? I thought we were dropping Frank Gore.
That was for Herbert. That was like if we got too many of the guys we wanted.
Oh, so we got Herbert in one of the first groups.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I put him in as like a contingent guy, kind of towards the bottom.
Well, thank God we still have Frank Gore. Whew, that was close.
It actually is kind of nice we have Frank Gore since we didn't get any running backs. Now we have a running back. He's a starting running back, Pete.
Book it right here. Everyone, someone timestamp this clip. Darrington Evans, league winner. I'm calling it now. Just wait. Seriously,
timestamp this because we're going to need it for the W or the L.
Yeah, 48 minutes and 10 seconds into the week 3 waiver show. Peter, the Showdown King / waiver wire Oracle, says Darrington Evans, league winner. All right, let's check out some of these other leagues. We didn't talk about these big groups. This was Robust OG.
We still have Cortland Sutton on this team, so something got screwed up here.
What? How do we still have Sutton on this team? Maybe these haven't processed yet. Maybe the football guys haven't processed. Yeah, I don't see anyone new here.
Okay.
That must
the football guys process a bit later. Maybe that's it.
Maybe they give the priority. Yeah, these don't look like they've processed. All right. Let's I want to see if I can see the bid reports, at least last year, weren't available right away. Yeah, it's being processed, but you can look at the transactions. It's always interesting to see. So normally I believe you're generally in order, right? Like Mike Davis, the highest, Deion Lewis, Drew Sample, Jordan Reed, Hamler, Wilson, Ford, Jefferson. Oh, sorry guys. I thought I was sharing my screen. New England, Chargers, Zane, Humphreys, Gallman, Wilkins, and Darwin. So I do feel good about sneaking those guys through, like we were talking about. We didn't do any kicker or defensive moves on this one. Let's check out the transactions on ship chasing one. Let's see. I don't know. I just kind of like looking at these. Mike Davis. Oh, so this was the other one. So Pat and I didn't talk about this, but someone dropped Darrell Henderson in this league. And
yeah, we didn't get him, huh?
We didn't get him. I mean, based on this bid, it looks like he went for probably 350 or 400 would just be my guess.
Which he should have. Yeah, I wish we were more aggressive on him, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with Josh. We did that before in our pre-call. We were looking at the bid report. It's one of the best pieces of information you can get to try to triangulate your future bids. Also, if like you're in home leagues and stuff, like the ESPN, I'm in an ESPN league where you bid, and it's even easier in those leagues to kind of identify patterns and stuff if you really want to get in the weeds on it. Not this year. I'm not getting in the weeds on ESPN bid reports. That was in the olden days.
That's how you honed your grinding skills.
Exactly. Okay. We missed out on some of our premium kicker ads. I don't think we got any Jason Myers. This one we added Cleveland defense versus Washington, which is nice.
That is nice.
I am happy to get Herbert. Pat and I have been a little spooked about Wentz. That said, he gets Cincinnati at home this week, which is obviously a really nice matchup. But some tough sledding there at San Francisco, at Pitt, home versus Baltimore. Herbert has a pretty nice schedule, although Tampa Bay has been solid, but we won't need him, hopefully, right away. But the thing that's attractive to me about Herbert is this playoff schedule. And I was looking at this for underdog purposes, although I ended up drafting Tyrod Taylor there too many times, was Atlanta, Las Vegas, Denver is a pretty nice schedule there down the stretch. So Herbert could be exciting here. Jets, Miami, Jacksonville, Las Vegas. I think he's a nice upside hedge bet with Wentz.
Me too. Yeah. And Wentz, I mean, he doesn't look good. He's doing like in Ben Baldwin's Dakota rankings. He's the last quarterback, and that includes quarterbacks who like filled in this week.
That's a good question from the Real Berg. We didn't really talk about him. Did people bid on Devonta Freeman?
He wasn't available.
Okay, he
wasn't available here. I think in any of our leagues, he was available in some of these dynasty leagues that are pretty similar setup. And I don't have the amount yet, but I think people just went bananas.
Wow. So this is our quad team, Pat, where we had gone pretty aggressive on Schultz and Sample, or so I thought. Didn't get either of them. So we're stuck with the Jordan Reed Kittle combo. We did get Hamler. Hamler appears to be the guy we are higher on than market because we've gotten him now on 3 of these teams.
Interesting. All right.
It sounds like Galladay's going to play this week, right?
That looks like, yeah. Based on what I was seeing, it looked like he's probably playing. Did you see Zach Moss is on the injury report now?
I saw someone say that, and I thought they were joking when I said if Pat loses Zach Moss this week.
No, he's on the injury report with a toe. He's questionable.
Yeah.
We're going to find out tomorrow that his toe fell off.
Great.
That's how the season's been going.
Oh, here. So because I haven't refreshed yet, we can actually see these bids here. This is in our 0-2 team with Sean and Column. We went 360 Mike Davis, 90 Dalton Schultz, 50 Jeffrey Wilson. Sean's a little higher on Wilson, I think, than me, but it makes sense. Sean doesn't want to start Ronald Jones, and we are actually very thin at running back. So this is fun. This is like the randomizer. I press refresh and see what we get.
Pete, these don't process till midnight.
No, football guys do.
I'm just messing with
you. Okay. I was like, you're not going to get me. I just saw this one and processed. These ones actually haven't processed yet because we still have Cortland Sutton on our team. Ship taking. This was the one with Davis. We had 223 Schultz, 98 Sample. Davis is a little worried about Zach Ertz, so we went heavy here. And then just some of those guys we were talking about. Someone just asked, who are you guys trying to sneak through on Friday? I mean, these are the kind of names you should be looking at. Darwin Thompson, Jordan Wilkins, LaMichael Pirine, Royce Freeman, stuff like that. Let's see if these have processed.
Yeah, we got Darwin now.
Okay, we got Darwin. No tight end though. Man, the tight ends are pricey. Look at this bench. All running backs and wide receiver. All right, Zach Ertz, stay healthy. Stay healthy. And Crack Rock, I didn't even see. I hope the interns put in some bids. It looks like the interns might not have put in bids.
It looks like the interns had the week off. There might have been a company retreat.
Wow. I think the
no bids.
All right, we need to talk to Crack Rock.
We still have a full clip here. 869.
I was under the assumption when I talked with Crack Rock, I said, so what's the deal? How are we going to do this? He said, don't worry. My interns will take care of it. Well, apparently not.
Look at the bid report. See if we just got outbid on everything. Because we did get Gaskin last week, right?
No, I think we did do bids last week. I remember doing them. But
we did them?
I put in some, yeah. No. Okay. I checked them.
You checked them. Yeah.
The intern had put in, and I was like, oh, nice. You put in for Gaskin. Good job, intern. Gold star.
That's how I remember it.
But we did not put in any bid.
We didn't physically ourselves put. Yeah, we didn't bid. Crack Rock didn't bid a goddamn thing. Right? Unless.
No.
Does it show? It doesn't show the mist. Okay. It doesn't show the mist yet.
I'm messaging. I'm DMing Crack Rock right now.
I think Crack Rock we just might have gotten outbid, dude.
You think? I won't message. I mean, Crack Rock. I mean, he's a legend. I shouldn't bother him like this. Yeah, that's not. That one was a main event. Oh, he was responding to this. Football guys. Some of them, it appears, have processed. Not all of them have processed. Yeah. We can't see the bid report, so it's not. Okay, here we go on this one. Wow, this is tough sledding. When we get Ford and Hamler, we got Hamler everywhere, man. We did not get another running back. We are going to be starting Ronald Jones this week in chasing OT.
Oh no.
I mean, that's Column's guy.
Yeah, Column. I will say, I mean, we were trying to spread out some of the risk, a little diversification, and Column just couldn't talk him out of Ronald Jones.
One thing about this team, Darius Slayton, I mean, Shepard was placed on IR, right?
Yeah.
Slayton is going to be a blast off. For sure.
I'm excited about Slayton.
I know. I wish we had more of him. I like that we have him there. We are thin. We are very thin at running back. It's nice that we got Logan Thomas on this team too. Our wide receivers and flexes will always be fine. I would think.
We put in real bids though. I think some, do we have the numbers for what Mike Davis costs? Because it's going to be pretty expensive. So there's one less guy with a bunch of fab that we have to compete with if another running back goes down or something.
Yeah, I don't think the big groups have the fab reports have populated yet. All right. Oh, sorry. I thought I had I keep forgetting I don't have the screen up. Let's see. Anyone have any other final questions here? Oh yeah. Squad matchups recap. Yeah. Let's do a couple of those here. Squad recap. So the ship chasing one, this is our team we can check the leaderboard here.
How do we go back and look at the last week matchup? I was trying to figure that out.
Oh, last week matchup, you just go to live scoring and tab down.
That's right.
So this one, look at this number we put up in this league. 200 points. What is the word? Pyrrhic? A Pyrrhic victory with Christian McCaffrey where we lose him. But Aaron Jones goes nuclear. We lose Cortland Sutton. Dak Prescott, monster game. DK Metcalf, nice game. I mean, the fact that we put up 200 with this many duds kind of illustrates how just having a few monster ceiling performances is all you need.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great week. I mean, we were at one point, McCaffrey was not hurt, Sutton was not hurt, and we were like 16th overall in the main event. So that was kind of the high point on Sunday.
And that was before Mark Andrews and DK Metcalf had even played.
Yeah. So we were pretty pumped. But I think, this team is in really nice shape, and we still have some firepower. We still have that Dallas stack. We still have DK Metcalf, Mark Andrews, Aaron Jones. I think we're in pretty good shape here. We obviously, Josh Kelly. Like, I think we'll get through for McCaffrey's return. I don't think we're just going to get totally overtaken by the rest of the league. So if that's true, then we should be, still fighting pretty hard for a playoff spot at a minimum here.
Yeah, I feel good about this team. Let's see. This was the one that we had. This is our other main event team where we had the big Monday night from Alvin Kamara here. So we won 165 to 157, and you can tell 38.4. This one, I had looked at this later on Sunday, and I was like, I think we're toast. But Alvin Kamara, really nice game. Terry McLaurin came through in those 4 p.m. games as well. And Young Ho Koo, underrated MVP for these squads.
Yeah. This one was funny because you mentioned how you had that like secret sweat for your showdown lineup, but we didn't. We were like talking, and then I was like, we're like 6 points away from maybe winning in the main event. Yeah. And we just needed a little bit more out of Kamara because we were down pretty far, and then Terry McLaurin got us there, and then you still need a nearly 40-point game out of Kamara to win, but he had 38.4, so that did it.
Raymond, I will say I have not lost any faith in Mark Andrews. Although maybe Pat, you had poured a little cold water on stat chasing. Are you losing any faith?
I'm not losing faith. No. It was a bad week for Mark Andrews, though. Just he wasn't targeted a whole lot. He did have a target in the end zone, which is pretty nice to see, given that it was sort of disappointing otherwise. But he wasn't targeted on a high rate of his routes. Typically, that's a bad sign. But Mark Andrews basically set the record on how often he was targeted on his routes last year. So it's not like the reason we care about this is because the idea is that earning a target in itself is a skill. And so you want to see these guys be able to actually earn targets and show that they can be a big part of the offense. For Mark Andrews, having done that to just an amazing degree for an entire season in his second year, I'm not then going to panic because he didn't do it for one single game in week 2. So I'm not panicking at all on Mark Andrews, but I just wanted to be honest on stat chasing that this was actually a pretty bad game from a player that we expect big things from this season.
Yeah. Dan says in his leagues he's seeing a lot of Reagor drops. Dan, give me your take. I'm curious on that. I mean, Pat and I just wanted a little bit more clarity on the timeline, but I think you can definitely justify it on a really good waiver week. I would be curious to hear Dan's thoughts on that. I'll pass it along if he brings it in the chat. Let's see here. Yeah.
There's a question about Akers getting dropped.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, answer that one.
Well, I mean, I don't think Akers will get dropped, but I mean, if Davis is worth like $600, then Akers is worth like $800, I think. I mean, I'd pay a lot to get Akers. And I kind of regret not paying a lot to get Henderson. I hope Henderson went for like $700 or something we wouldn't have done. Because if he went for like $450, I'm going to be irritated for not pushing for him a little bit harder.
Yeah, I actually want to talk about this team. So this quad team from, this was one of our true zero RB teams. So we don't have George Kittle. We don't have AJ Brown. We don't have Kenny Golladay. We don't have Cortland Sutton. This team wins 134 to 129 with DeAndre Swift and Zach Moss. Kyler Murray carries us, and Jordan Reed, who we plugged in to fill. This is like the similar story that we had last year with the team that made the playoffs, where it was so resilient against the bye weeks and against injuries because we had so many wide receivers. And we lose Sutton, but now we Galladay coming back. Hopefully AJ Brown comes back soon. Hopefully Kittle comes back soon. But, the running backs actually don't look awful. DeAndre Swift seems to have I feel like DeAndre Swift is on the Miles Sanders plan. You know?
Yeah. And it's almost like maybe kind of an Aaron Jonesy type thing where he's never going to get the full workload. Like, I don't think, unlike Sanders, where you could see like eventually he'll be the workhorse, I don't think that's what's happening here. I think what's happening is that Swift has carved out a very valuable pass catching role. And now if he can add to that some of the rushing work and hopefully the really high value rushing work around the goal line, then he can become like a real star, more in the Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones type of mold rather than the Miles Sanders. But I think in terms of the timing of it, then it probably will be pretty similar, where he could be someone into that playoff stretch that could be absolutely huge for us.
Yeah, and another thing we got going for us on this team, as well as Darrell Henderson's kind of emergence here. I think he could really have a nice stretch here, depending on how that injury stuff shakes out. I know it doesn't seem like Malcolm Brown is going to miss too much time, but he's by far, I guess it can be debatable. I think Darrell Henderson is the most talented back in this backfield. Maybe that's blasphemous to say, but I think Darrell Henderson has some spark, and I'm excited to have him on this team. Let's see, were there any other teams we wanted to check in on? Chasing OT, this team has had some bad luck, running into an Eleanor Higbee 222-point team here. They catch Russell Wilson, Alvin Kamara, and Higbee and Waller on just monster weeks. It's a nice team. We're really thin at running back on this one, and lose Cortland Sutton. So that one's in rough shape. But
yeah, although the firepower that we have here with Darius Slayton, Stephon Diggs, this is another team with Mark Andrews, Dalvin Cook, Kyler Murray. Like, if we get AJ Brown back on this squad, or if we found something in like KJ Hamler, we're going to be fighting for production at running back 2 for probably another 2-3 weeks. But we have access to ceiling in a lot of the other spots. So we can even probably slot in Logan Thomas as a starter too here. So this team, I think it's 0-2. It's, you could say it's not off to a hot start. I think that's fair for any 0-2 team, but we are doing pretty good in points. I think we're 5th in points, and we're basically like 11 points out of a playoff spot right now. So things have gone really bad for this team, losing Sutton, and we haven't yet hit on any of our running back plays the way we have with some of the other teams. But man, this team I feel like is kind of a sleeping giant if we can just get a couple things to break right for us.
Yeah. Real quick question from Frank the Tank. Would you guys think of Lazard if Devontae sits? Definitely. Yeah. Lazard and MVS would both see a really nice uptick in targets. Are you rostering Pirine anywhere? He got dropped in my dynasty league. I think he's definitely a dynasty league ad.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's check in as we wrap up here. This was ship taking. We're 101, 1-1 here. Let's see what happened in week 2. We put up a really nice total. This is a nice team. Dak, Kamara, Rojo, CeeDee Lamb, DJ Chark, Stephon Diggs, Hopkins. Hopkins, where we got him late in the second. Ertz, and some nice running backs here. Antonio Gibson is going to end up being our RB2 here. His role really expanding. We have Gaskin, Snell, who I think we haven't heard the last of this year. And then our boys, Chenault, Preston Williams. So this is another really just nicely built team that can really explode.
Yeah. I do want to say on the Pirine question, like, Bell is probably going to be gone after the year, and Gase almost certainly will be fired. So I do think that he's a really, really nice dynasty ad. I think this team is in pretty good shape. Gibson almost has to be a starter. Like, why don't we have him in right now?
Gaskin?
Gibson.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say Gibson for sure. Yeah. I'll let you sub out Rojo for Gibson.
We got Jermichael Hasty here. He was a guy that I've been stashing in dynasty leagues. he was a guy I was adding to a lot of my waiver claim bids at the very end. So we added him here.
Our team with Crack Rock is pretty hot too. Getting Josh Allen in the 11th is letting us stack up Josh Allen with Diggs. As Hassan would say, our teammates will rue the day they let us do that. DJ Moore, Beckham, 2 solid running backs. And then, of course, we cranked it purple. We got Hawkinson. We got Cook. We picked up Gaskin last week, which is nice. And we have really nice depth here at wide receiver with Chanel.
Hunter Henry, too.
Yeah, Henry. I mean, Henry, that's the only thing about cranking it purple is you do have these really tough decisions between like Keenan Allen, Odell Beckham, and Hunter Henry like every week because they're all kind of like in the same vicinity.
You sound like a robust RB truther telling us we have too many wide receivers to start.
Dude, yeah. No, that's the thing. It's like I don't mind having to decide between wide receivers and tight ends. It's nice. Yeah.
Hunter Henry, I think, is going to be – he looks like a smash this year. He has great connection with Taylor, great connection with Herbert. I think he's looking like he could be one of the better tight end picks in that entire couple tiers.
I agree with Dan on this take, following back up on the Reagor stuff. I didn't drop him, and I would add him on strong teams, just tough until we know a timetable. Can't afford the roster spot on bad teams. I agree complete with that take. Djax or Slayton this week? I mean, to me, Slayton. To me, it's Slayton.
Yeah, to me, it's Slayton.
Yeah. Djax, though, definitely has appeal against the Bengals. No Reagor. But I think they have a similar ceiling, but Slayton, I think, has a higher floor with his targets, is what I would say.
Agreed. Yeah, Djax's ceiling is pretty appealing because if they can find if Wentz can actually connect with him downfield a bit, then you could start to see this offense clicking a little bit. Because he's just been going to the tight ends constantly.
Yeah. We talked about this before. He was dropped in one of our leagues. Darrell Henderson was, and I think our bid was like 210 or something.
Yeah, it was too low. We should have gone like 400.
Yeah,
and we still wouldn't have gotten him probably, but I think we just were price enforcing really.
Yeah, we can circle back. Remind us on Friday. We'll do the show with Ben, and we can look back at some of these bid reports and get more in the weeds about them. Yeah, it does seem like I'm a little bummed that we didn't get Schultz in a couple spots. People went hard, and I think rightfully so. We did pick up Hamler in a lot of spots, so hopefully he has some juice. And, ultimately we left a lot of money in the clip for future weeks. And my thought has been we are not done with these crazy waiver wire weeks. So even though we don't come out sitting pretty this week, I think we'll be able to spend that money down the road.
Yeah, I think a lot of the only bid that I wish we went harder on was Henderson. I think everyone else, Freeman wasn't available, and then you have Mike Davis, Mike Davis is not going to emerge as some league winner down the stretch. He's going to go back to being a backup. So I think you do have to be pretty price sensitive, even with your fab dollars, when you have an expiration date on the guy.
Yeah. All right, Pat. Anything else here before we wrap up this? Much more, in my opinion, successful waiver wire show after last week's train wreck.
I mean, I kind of liked last week's better. It was a little more fun, a little more pep to it.
As Eric Belair said, he was like, "It's fun, but there's way too much money on the line for this." So I feel better about actually getting some good bids in here. And as we get more in our routine, like I said, we'll get a little more granular with the bid reports. Figure out what we need to do to win guys here. We talked about this earlier in the show. If you want to go back after this, we're moving on from Bryce Love. This week, legit. Last week, a bit. Yeah, legit or a bit. This week, we finally buckled down. We finally did. I know, Siler. We are growing up. So yeah, a few of those housekeeping things I mentioned at the top of the show. Check out Stat Chasing. It's both up on the YouTube and the pod feed. We would love to keep adding YouTube subscribers. So if you guys are watching but not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. That would be great. We will be back Friday. We're going to do a little late happy hour. It's happy hour for Ben on the West Coast. 9:15 p.m. Eastern. We'll do a little Friday waiver wire show, shoot the shit with Ben. Pat and Ben can do the Spider-Man meme with all their stats that they've been looking at this week. Anything else I'm forgetting here on the out?
No, I think we got it, man.
All right, guys. Appreciate you. Hopefully your waiver wires are stuffed with a good haul, and we will see you guys on Friday. For Pat Crane, I'm Peter Overzet. This is Ship Chasing.